With the release of The Nun 2 on 7th of September 2023, it is the perfect time to revisit its predecessor, The Nun, and explore what exactly made this particular entity stand out amongst all the other spine-chilling films within the Conjuring universe. While some fans have criticized The Nun for relying heavily on conventional jump scares and predictable plot twists, it surely distinguishes itself by creating a uniquely eerie atmosphere, making it one of the most visually unsettling entries in the franchise. Throughout the Conjuring universe, spanning from The Conjuring to Annabelle, a central theme that ties all the films together is the presence of the Warrens. These characters are based on the real-life paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. In this cinematic universe, the Warrens become embroiled in a range of demonic conspiracies and interconnected supernatural phenomena impacting people across the globe. Irrespective of their presence, Valak has been on our minds ever since Lorraine was attacked by the Nun in Conjuring 2, making way for the Nun movie, which really painted out one of the most horrifying origin plots of how the Nun came into existence. The themes, the plot, the eerie atmosphere, those piercing eyes of the demon Nun, every bit of it kept the audience on their toes. In this video, we will unravel the hidden mysteries behind the Nun's physiological intricacies that make it the creepiest entity in the Conjuring universe. So without wasting another moment, let's get right into it. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. How did the Nun come into existence? Valak is an immensely powerful demon that assumes the guise of a malevolent nun, both to ridicule the fate of its adversaries and to infiltrate their ranks unnoticed. It holds the title of being the arch-nemesis of the Warrens, with a particular focus on its rivalry with Lorraine Warren. In the Nun prequel, the story unveils the origins of Valak and its connection to the Carta Monastery located in Romania. Centuries ago, a duke consumed by a sinister fascination with dark magic and Satanism built the monastery. His ill-fated attempt to summon a demonic force from the catacombs resulted in his demise at the hands of Vatican members, who then sealed the rift with the blood of Christ. However, during World War II, the monastery suffered heavy bombing, inadvertently setting the same malevolent spirit free from its imprisonment. The demon, taking on the guise of a nun, used this form both to blend in with the other nuns and to mock their faith. Over the years, despite the nuns' continuous prayers, Valak roamed freely within the monastery every night, systematically killing them. By 1952, Valak had claimed the lives of all the nuns, leaving only 2 survivors. It ruthlessly murdered one after she retrieved the key to a sacred relic, while the other, Sister Victoria, took her own life to prevent Valak from using her as a host. Following Sister Victoria's death, the Vatican assigned Burke and Sister Irene to investigate the disturbing occurrences at the monastery. Valak manipulates these characters throughout the film, employing a range of tactics, including creating illusions with the apparitions of the slain nuns, weakening Sister Irene, and tormenting Father Burke by assuming the form of a young boy who had died during one of his failed exorcisms. But in a critical moment, Sister Irene spits the blood of Christ onto Valak, causing it excruciating pain and banishing it into the rift, which is then sealed once more. However, Valak's vengeance endures as it manages to attach itself to Frenchie, also known as Maurice, a French-Canadian with an inverse cross branded on his neck. This narrative thread seamlessly connects to the original Conjuring film, where Valak, posing as Maurice, was ultimately exposed by Ed and Lorraine Warren. They subsequently sought to exorcise the demon, but before they could, Valak willingly departed from Maurice, a departure that would lead to Maurice's demise years later. In an act of vengeance, Valak cursed Lorraine with haunting visions of its presence and the eventual death of Ed. In contrast to several other movies in the Conjuring series, which draw inspiration from real people and documented cases handled by the Warrens, The Nun takes a departure from this established pattern. Unlike the Conjuring films, which are rooted in well-documented paranormal investigations, The Nun ventures into the realm of pure fiction. This creative liberty allows the franchise to explore new horizons in storytelling and introduce a fresh and chilling antagonist. Unlike the previous films, where the paranormal entities often had some basis in reality, Valak takes on a distinctively supernatural and terrifying form. This malevolent entity assumes the guise of a traditionally religious figure, a nun, but with a horrifying twist, gaunt, unsettling features, and eerie yellow-green eyes. This departure from the more grounded source material of the other films grants The Nun the freedom to craft a wholly original and horrifying villain.
Who's that?
Does the nun exist in real life, or does she have origin in folklore? As we have mentioned before, the nun is not exactly rooted in reality. There is no substantiated evidence to report the existence of a demon nun that escaped from hell to cause harm to nuns in Romania, nor is there any historical record of a paranormal incident in any Romanian monastery in 1952. However, according to reports from Cosmopolitan, the film might have drawn inspiration from an alleged encounter that paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren claimed to have had with a nun at a British abbey. In a 2018 interview with Esquire magazine, Tony Spera, the Warrens' son-in-law, mentioned that the demon nun depicted in the movie bore similarities to a ghostly nun that the Warrens supposedly had encountered at a haunted Borley church in England around the 1970s. Now, this Borley church was rumored to be the site of various inexplicable occurrences, such as unexplained bell ringing, mysterious writings attributed to a headless monk, and sightings of a spectral nun wandering the premises at night. The Warrens, who were renowned for their investigations into paranormal phenomena at the time, visited the church to explore these reports and claimed to have encountered the ghostly nun. According to lore, she was said to have been cemented alive within the church walls as punishment for having an affair with a monk. Lorraine Warren apparently had sensed the existence of this nun within the church. During an interview with Esquire, Spera suggested that while the nun may have drawn inspiration from this experience, Hollywood often amalgamates various elements from different stories to create its narratives, thus indicating that the film likely did not emerge entirely from thin air. Additionally, The Nun director Corin Hardy had also confirmed publicly that the depiction of the demon in the movie was inspired by Lorraine Warren's description of a demon she claimed to have witnessed in her own home, which she described as a swirling vortex with a hooded figure. Even if the movie may have taken inspiration from various cases and encounters reported by the Warrens, there is no concrete evidence to support the existence of Valak as the nun. In contrast to the portrayal of Valak as a demonic nun in the film, Valak has historical roots in various grimoires, which are books of magic containing instructions on conjuring demons. Interestingly, in these ancient texts, Valak's appearance differs significantly from its cinematic adaptation. Instead of a nun, Valak is described as a child with angelic wings who rides upon a two-headed dragon. One of the prominent references to Valak can be found in the mid-17th century grimoire known as the Lesser Key of Solomon. This grimoire draws from earlier materials and focuses on the summoning of demons, particularly those associated with King Solomon from the Bible. Within the Lesser Key of Solomon, Valak is identified as the Grand President of Hell, holding authority over legions of subordinate demonic entities. Various spellings of Valak's name, such as Ualak, Valak, Valu, Dulas, Volak, and Volak, have been used in different historical sources. Nonetheless, we can affirm that the only thing common between the mythological version of Valak and our demon nun from the film is the moniker they share and, of course, the title of Marquis of Snakes. The piercing yellow eyes of the nun. The most striking feature of the nun's character that immediately captures attention is the entity's piercing yellow eyes, which play a vital role in enhancing the horror and symbolism associated with the character. You see, in the realm of horror and mythology, yellow eyes often carry a significant symbolism, as they are commonly associated with malevolence and the inherent existence of the supernatural. In this context, the yellow color is a symbol of disease, decay, or something that is inherently unnatural. When applied to Valak, the yellow eyes immediately convey that this entity does not belong to our world and embodies a certain kind of malevolence that is beyond human comprehension. Now, if we take a look at this from a cinematic perspective, the use of yellow eyes serve as a focal point within the nun's predominantly dark and shadowy appearance, as this stark color contrast creates an unnerving gaze that is impossible to overlook, drawing the viewer's attention directly to its face. I mean, have you looked at Valak's eyes? It literally gives you that unforgettable glare that would pierce your soul. Also, we often refer to our eyes as the windows to the soul, and thus with Valak's character being given those piercing eyes with an uncanny shade of yellow, the filmmakers quite effectively communicate that this entity's soul is a pure shade of tainted and evil. which adds that extra emotional layer of fear she instills, intensifying the overall sense of unease within the viewers. And if you closely note, Valak's yellow eyes complement and amplify other haunting features of the nun's character, such as the claw-like fingers, and of course that eerie smile. When combined, these features work in unison to create a symphony of visual horror that aims to unsettle and terrify the audience. Furthermore, the intensity of the yellow hue can be adjusted to convey various emotional states for Valak, like if a more vibrant shade of yellow is used, the brightness can be used to signify a heightened sense of aggression or anger, while a comparatively dimmer shade could indicate a much more calculating or cunning demeanor. To sum it up, the presence of yellow eyes in the character of the nun serves a dual purpose. They carry symbolic weight, signaling Valak's supernatural origins and malevolent nature, while also functioning as a captivating visual element that intensifies the emotional response of the viewer. The twisted smile of the nun. The nun is frequently depicted with a chilling, unnaturally wide smile that extends far beyond the parameters of a typical human grin. This deliberate feature serves to emphasize her inhuman nature and her inherent malevolence. When the nun smiles, her jaw stretches considerably wider towards both ends of her face compared to what would be expected from a normal human being. Furthermore, her smile is accentuated by the presence of sharp yellow teeth. This detail becomes particularly evident during a pivotal moment in the film The Nun, when Sister Irene spits Christ's blood onto the nun's face. This visceral visual of sharp yellow teeth adds to the character's overall horrifying and menacing appearance. It reinforces the notion that the nun is not just a mere human, but rather a demonic entity with a truly wicked disposition, intensifying the sense of fear and unease she instills in the audience. The nun's androgynous appearance. Is Valak a Nosferatu? We all know that Valak possesses a sinister and malevolent nature that matches its ominous physical manifestation as a nun. This demonic entity is characterized by its sheer wickedness, ruthlessness, sadism, coldness, and utter lack of moral restraint. Its actions reveal a penchant for inflicting terror and suffering upon others solely for its own perverse pleasure. This innate cruelty becomes evident when Valak targets and torments the Hodgson family in Conjuring 2, showcasing its capacity for malevolence. These disturbing traits are equally feared by the nuns inhabiting the Abbey of St. Carta in Romania, where Valak has a spiritually oppressive presence. It revels in taunting Lorraine Warren about her Catholic faith, further emphasizing its malefic disposition. Additionally, Valak harbors a deep-seated grudge against the Warrens, stemming from their successful exorcism that expelled Valak from Maurice. This vengeful aspect of its character underscores its capacity for harboring resentment. But despite its abhorrent cruelty, Valak has a high degree of intelligence, organization, and strategic thinking because it adeptly assumes the guise of a nun to blend seamlessly into the abbey, eluding detection. Moreover, Valak manages to deceive the Warrens by initially diverting their attention toward Bill Wilkins as the possessor of Janet, instead of revealing its true identity. Even when this clever ruse eventually unravels when Bill Wilkins himself contradicts this claim, exposing Valak's true nature. Through all its appearances, Valak is portrayed as a silent and opportunistic entity who derives satisfaction from toying with its adversaries before ultimately delivering a fatal blow. It typically refrains from speaking unless it is in the process of possessing someone, and even then, it communicates sparingly. Even when existing in its nun form outside of a vessel, Valak maintains a steadfast silence, further accentuating its enigmatic and eerie presence. This inherent attribute shares quite similar notes with the themes of a Nosferatu character, which stresses more on the menacing features of the character, which can be especially noted in the Conjuring 2 film as the nun glares through the painting. Even its wild shred of existence in the room sets a morbid atmosphere for a monster that will always lurk in your mind, making it as iconic and timeless as a Nosferatu character, at least by the looks. Can the nun shapeshift? Valak's capacity for shapeshifting is a key source of its terror. When Father Burt delves into research, he uncovers a tome or a large book that portrays the entity as the Marquis of Snakes, while painting a vivid image of Valak with a monstrous serpent emerging from its mouth. Throughout the film, we witness subtle hints alluding to Valak's serpentine nature, be placed very strategically. For example, the sinister Mother Reverend's throne, as seen in The Nun, is adorned with the imagery of two snakes engaged in devouring each other, symbolizing the entity's association with snakes. As the narrative unfolds, the manifestation of snakes becomes increasingly prevalent. In one instance, when Father Burke pursues Daniel's ghost through a cemetery, a haunting spectacle occurs as snakes pour forth from Daniel's mouth, emphasizing the omnipresent connection of the entity to serpents. In the climatic battle, Valak's serpent motif reaches its peak as Father Burke finds himself ensnared by a menacing snake and is subjected to a venomous bite to the eye, culminating in a visceral confrontation with a manifestation of Valak's serpentine malevolence. The nun's imposing height. Valak as the nun is notably portrayed as exceptionally tall, which plays a pivotal role in accentuating the psychological horror within the Conjuring universe. This towering stature serves multiple purposes, collectively contributing to the character's eerie and unsettling impact. The deliberate height disparity established between Valak and its victims immediately forges a palpable power imbalance. This stark contrast in physicality accentuates Valak's dominance, further cementing the notion that it definitely holds an upper hand over those who encounter the entity's presence, marking it as the emblem of superiority. Now, taking a gaze from the cinematic perspective, a taller figure inherently commands greater screen presence, drawing the audience's attention to instill a sense of uncanniness. This simple yet effective choice ensures that Valak becomes the focal point of the scenes it inhabits, intensifying the viewer's focus on the demon nun's menacing presence. In addition to that, tall, imposing figures have long been employed in folklore and horror narratives as symbols of unease and intimidation. The height advantage naturally allows the character to figuratively and literally look down upon others, fostering a deep sense of vulnerability and inferiority among those who find themselves in its ominous presence. Traditionally, the image of a nun conveys notions of piety and serenity rather than physical intimidation. By imbuing the character of the nun with towering height, the filmmakers deftly subvert audience expectations, amplifying her unsettling nature by defying conventional perceptions. Plus, Valak's extraordinary height serves to magnify other eerie physical attributes that further boosts the demon's ghostly pallor. These traits become all the more menacing through the sheer scale of the nun's imposing figure. By deliberately crafting Valak as taller than most, if not all, of the characters it interacts with, the filmmakers effectively magnify her threatening presence and establish her as a truly formidable and imposing force within the Conjuring universe. Can the nun reproduce? The Conjuring universe gives no existing indication or inference that the nun, aka Valak, possesses any capacity for reproduction. We already know that Valak is distinctly portrayed as a demonic entity adopting the guise of a nun with a primary purpose of manipulating and terrorizing its victims. It has never ever been depicted as a biological being, so it can definitely not be associated with any ability to reproduce. And in general, the topic of exploring the idea of demonic entities engaging in reproduction is not a common theme within traditional Christian demonology or prevalent in mainstream horror films. These entities are typically characterized as fallen angels or malevolent spirits whose principal objectives revolve around corrupting, possessing, or inflicting harm on humans rather than procreation. It is essential to recognize that the Nun film is purely a work of fiction, granting its creators the creative freedom to shape the narrative as they see fit. While future installments may introduce new elements, the concept of Valak the Nun engaging in reproduction has definitely not been explored or established within the franchise. Marvel's verdict. In the world of horror cinema, the Nun emerges as a standout character with its ability to send shivers down the spines of audiences worldwide. Valak, the demonic entity that takes on the form of a sinister nun, combines a host of eerie traits and symbolism to create an unforgettable antagonist. The symbolism behind its menacing features, such as the yellow eyes signifying decay and the wide smile, showcasing its inhuman nature, serves to enhance the overall sense of dread. In conclusion, the Nun stands as a testament to the power of effective horror cinema, with Valak's character leaving an indelible mark on the genre. Its combination of visual horror, symbolism, and psychological unease makes it a standout presence within the Conjuring universe, ensuring that Valak's sinister legacy endures in the annals of horror history. Now that we've come to the very end of this video, have you guys watched the Nun sequel? What are your thoughts about the new film? Please let us know in the comment box below.